As soon as I saw the Unveiled Tarot, I just knew that I had to check out this deck. This is an 80 card tarot deck which has 2 extra majors, the Mob and the Puppeteer. It's created by comic Jesse Lonergan and it is published by Sterling Ethos and Liminal 11. And I am a huge fan of anything that Liminal 11 touches. Their decks are always so cool. And this deck does not disappoint when it comes to details and the artistry of Jesse Lonergan. He is a well-known comic and it totally shows in this deck and the thoughtfulness and intention. The guidebook is super cute, hard covered, and it's quite simple, honestly. If you're looking for a deck with an incredible guidebook, this is probably not the one for you. It is quite simple, very straightforward, but it's fun to read and it is unique, which I personally appreciate and enjoy. And even though this is a Liminal 11 deck, I have to say that the cardstock in this one is not the same as some of our classic Liminal 11 decks like the Modern Witch Tarot or This Might Hurt Tarot. This deck sadly feels much thinner, it's not as nice in cardstock. And as for the size of the cardstock, they are slightly larger than a standard tarot card, but nothing massive. In an interview, Jesse Lonergan said that the Fool card is one that he just kind of designed for fun and put it on social media. It ended up going super viral with people really offended because it was pretty politically motivated, I suppose, even though I don't think he had any specific intentions with it. And he said that the Fool card was the one that got him the contract for the entire deck, so it really started with that. However, he said that in 2020, the Death card for this deck was the first one that he actually drew. He said that he was just kind of whimsically drawing some tarot cards here and there with this kind of art style that he thought was really interesting, but once he signed the contract, he realized, oh wait, now I've got to actually do 78 cards. And honestly, he did such a great job. I'm really impressed with these cards. I love the majors, but I also really love the minors, and I love the court cards. I think comic books are really cool, but I'm not by any means a fan or knowledgeable at all about comics, but I was still really drawn to this deck and I'm really excited to continue using it. I love how dark some of the cards are and how they really evoke a lot of thinking, a lot of thought, a lot of emotion. And I think Liminal 11 likes to push their artists to do bonus cards or exclusive cards for decks, which I'm a huge fan of. And like I said, in this deck, it is the Mob and the Puppeteer that are the exclusive cards. And I really love both of these cards. I'm not sure how I would read either of them reverse necessarily, but I love them for an upright meaning. I think the Mob is such an interesting choice for a tarot card because we finally see a card that actually is about the collective. It's about how you are within the group. It's about this kind of group think where we're all on the same page. And there aren't really very many tarot cards that really give us that sense of wholeness and of group, right? Sometimes we have friendships or lovers or family, very close relationships, but we don't often have ourselves and the collective or a specific group. So I actually think adding a card like that is pure genius, and I wouldn't say that there needs to be more cards in the tarot, but if there was to be another card in the tarot, I think having something like the Mob would be an amazing choice. Truly genius. I would have never thought about adding a card like that, and I've never seen a card like that added to a deck, so I really, really like it. I also love that the Mob can be interpreted in so many different ways, right? You could see it as a group of people banding together against something that they're really passionate about, or you could see it more as people just sort of having like a bystander effect, or, you know, kind of just going with the flow, being mad because they're mad and being controlled by this kind of outside force that they aren't even really sure why it's happening. They're just sort of following the group. I think that card, especially when paired with other tarot cards, could be a really, really cool message for either a very positive energy and collective consciousness, or maybe something about not really listening to your true inner voice and just kind of going along with things because it's the energy that you're wrapped up in. And I think this is the first time I've ever said this, but my favorite cards in this deck are actually the cards that are traditionally more negative or scary. Absolutely love this 9 of Cups. I love the 10 of Swords, the 3 of Swords. The Devil card is incredible. I think that some of these kind of creepier aspects of the cards, Jesse just takes it to another level. Like, he's really able to capture some of that darkness and brutal honesty in these cards, which I just think is incredible. And it's going to be really, really fun and interesting to read with these. And for myself personally, a lot of private readings that I do with clients tend to be pretty positive. Most people I read for are spiritual. They're usually artists, creatives, business owners, or professionals. And I don't know, I just feel like I tend to use pretty positive decks with them just because I find most people are looking for guidance and support. And I never want to like scare people with some of the messages that we talk about. So I'm not really sure if I'll use this deck with clients just because it feels so raw and real, and I don't want to scare anybody. Like, this Eight of Swords card is so creepy. Unless maybe I get somebody asking for like a shadow work reading in particular, I think I'm just going to save this deck for myself personally. I'll probably also use it for my collective tarot readings on TikTok because it's just such a cool deck and I want people to see it. But I don't think I'll be using it with clients, which I'm perfectly okay with because I feel like I always want more decks that just I'm using, that I'm not using with clients, that I keep only for me, because I feel like I just have so few of them that I really appreciate when I find a deck where I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be using this one. And at this point, with how many decks I get sent by publishers and how many I've bought over the years, I truly have so many. But this one actually fills a gap of decks that I don't have, and that is a deck that feels a lot more masculine. A lot of my decks are predominantly women and they tend to be very colorful, but this is the kind of deck that maybe I actually would use with the client, especially if they were masculine presenting. And I only have a couple of decks so far that I use with male clients because I obviously don't want to use like the Modern Witch Tarot with a man because it's all women and they're not going to see themselves in the cards, right? So I think that this deck actually fills a gap in the market, which is more decks for masculine presenting people or just people generally who don't always want a super flowery floral deck, but who also maybe don't want just an all black deck or a kind of like a boring deck, right? So I love this deck. I'm super excited to use it. I think the cardstock could be a little bit nicer in my opinion. Just I miss that old Liminal 11 cardstock, but that is my only complaint. Otherwise, I am super happy with this one and I can't wait to use it. Let me know what you think about this deck. Is it a purchase or a pass?